Welcome inside episode 475 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Rosie Levert on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains on a Ottawa Senators game day. The Sens are playing their first home game in over a month.
Yeah, finally some home cooking, Ross, and finally a bottom feeder team that this Sens team can kind of have an even playing field up against, although Sens just ran through Alberta with ease, so maybe that's not entirely true. And Ross, this is a Buffalo Sabres team that has 4 goalies on the IR, so they're struggling in the crease. Should be a good one for the boys tonight.
We'll have a full preview of that game and a SensCentral Citizen. Rosie Levert joins us all the way from Korea, so stay tuned for that and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Today is Tuesday, January 18th, and Pilsy, I'm feeling a big win tonight for the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, the vibes are at an all-time high, and getting to go up against the Buffalo Sabres team that has big injury troubles and just lost back-to-back games to Detroit, you got to be feeling good if you're the Sens here. But at the same time, you can't let that trap game kind of catch up on you. I mean, DJ Smith even talked about it to the press. He said he felt like the Oilers probably took them a little lightly. And he did mention, I thought it was funny, he said someone online said it was a guaranteed Oilers win or something like that. So definitely, if DJ Smith is picking up on Biz, tweeting that out, maybe he's also following along with the Locked On Senators podcast, hopefully a subscriber.
And we want to thank Biz again for joining us. We've had a lot of great reaction to having Paul Bissonnette on yesterday's show. You can go get that wherever you download your podcast or on YouTube where it's free and available to subscribe as well. Hit that like button on this one as well. Pilsy, the Senators have only played 4 home games since the game we don't talk about. Yeah. The Calgary Flames, 4-0 on November 14th. That's 4 home games in over 2 months. Talk about brutal ad buying. A different, not betonline.ag, but it should be betonline.ag. They are paying for home sponsorship, and they now have paid a month worth of sponsorship money, and they haven't seen their product on the ice.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't be our online sportsbook, that's for sure, betonline.ag. But yeah, it is crazy that it's been that long since I've been home, and it's unfortunate, but they're going to be playing in front of no fans, which it really sucks for these guys, especially like coming off a high, like two wins on the road, and then you're playing up against a lower team in the standings. So really, this would be a perfect time to come home to a packed CTC, but it's not the case, unfortunately.
On the other side of our SensCentral Citizen, we'll get into our keys to victory, locked on player to watch, and a lookout player from the Buffalo Sabres. Look out, the Buffalo Sabres are coming to town. But before we get to that, no morning skate today. So the Ottawa Senators were going off of what their lines were. Oh, I'm going to pull up the one. I added a nice little scoop here. But let's do the Sabres first, actually. If you're watching on YouTube, pulling up the Sabres line combinations, how many people on this roster do you think the average fan knows?
Well, definitely Skinner. They would know. Okposo, I feel like he was huge when he was with the Islanders. Rasmus Dahlin, first overall pick. You got to know that. Cousins, he had a big World Junior, so maybe people know him. But going down that list, there's not a whole lot here. And the Buffalo Sabres, I think it's very clear, are a rebuilding team.
Yes, but that
for the last decade.
For the last decade, exactly. But now, like, they'd always had that star power, at least with Jack Eichel in the lineup. And now you are looking at 2 of the pieces from the Jack Eichel return. Peyton Krebs playing third line center. He's a young player with tons of potential. And Alex Tuch, a Buffalo area kid getting to play at home. We know that storyline well from kids coming back to play for the Ottawa Senators. But if you're just listening to the podcast, the top line goes Tage Thompson with Jeff Skinner and Alex Tuch. Then it's Dylan Cousins with Rasmus Asplund and Victor Olofsson. The third line is Peyton Krebs between Vinny Hinostroza and Kyle Okposo. And the fourth line, Cody Eakin between Anders Bjork and John Hayden. On defense, it's Rasmus Dahlin, first overall pick in the Brady Tkachuk year, with Yoki Haru. And then the second pair is Matthias Samuelsson with Mark Pysyk and then Will Butcher with Robert Haig. You mentioned off the top 4 goalies in injured reserve, including
Crazy.
the greatest goalie in Senators history, Craig Anderson, who got off to such a great start for Buffalo, but was not able to stay healthy. So they're 2 goalies tonight. They're rolling with Aaron Dell and Michael Hauser. Pilsy, I said it off the top. I'm going to say it again. I see that lineup, and I see Ottawa Senators victory.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, you should be looking at the lineup and being like, all right, there's a bunch of holes here that we can definitely be able to take advantage of. And yeah, just when you're on your 5th string goalie, especially as a rebuilding team, like even their other 4 guys that are injured aren't necessarily studs. We talked about Anderson having a good year, but like as league wide, they wouldn't be considered one of the teams that has a strong goaltending tandem. That's for sure. So I think the Sabres, they're in a weird spot here, but I think it was a big deal trading Jack Eichel because that was a real dark cloud hanging over their head. And sure, he's a superstar and he's like a point per game guy when he's healthy, but it doesn't do much for you if you're in the bottom of the league and you have this superstar that's unhappy and wants to trade and he's supposed to be your captain and all this kind of stuff. So I think now that they've moved on from him and they got Granato as their coach, I think he's kind of injected some positivity into that lineup. And the Sens can't take him too lightly because on any given night, the Sabres can come out and have a good showing. So it's going to be interesting here, but I'm glad that finally the Senators have a team that's not a playoff contender that they're going to have up at home too.
Yes, you mentioned back-to-back losses. The Sabres only have 1 win in their last 9 games, and it came on the road in Nashville, 4-1 the score. They've got losses to Pittsburgh, New Jersey, the Islanders, Boston, San Jose, Tampa, and then 2 to Detroit in a row. They're coming to Ottawa now in the first of 2 trips to Ottawa in the next week. So get used to the Buffalo Sabres as they'll be back in town. I looked up their goals against per game. I was like, oh, it's probably the worst. Well, Ottawa's actually allowed more. Ottawa's 3rd in the league, 3rd worst, I should say, in goals against per game, just behind Montreal and Arizona. But Buffalo's not too much further behind. Ottawa's allowing 3.61, and Buffalo is at 3.47. The only difference is Ottawa's averaging 2.84 goals per game, and Buffalo only 2.5. So they're just a young team looking to find their way, and, well, they haven't just yet. So I'm excited for this matchup. The Ottawa Senators, I mentioned no morning skate today, but they did practice yesterday, and although there was a maintenance day, so I want to get that out there right away as we bring up the lines. So Nick Holden did not practice. I would expect him to play tonight, and if he does, throw these D pairs out the window because I highly doubt we're going to see a Mete JBD pair. If that's the case, I think you're more likely going to see the same D core that played against Edmonton, which would have been Shabbat JBD. Well, they actually changed it up in the 3rd period. So would it be that? Because Brandstrom moved up and played with Shabbat in the 3rd pair. Although, Pilsy, do you think that might be a situation where DJ Smith was just looking to get offense, so he put his 2 most offensive-minded defensemen together?
Yeah, I think definitely. And I mean, those 2 together are just an absolute stud pair. So it definitely makes sense. And yeah, Ross, we figured Holden was going to be a maintenance day, and we were right. So it'll be interesting to see if he puts him back in the lineup here. But if you're going to give a veteran guy who's had a real uptick in minutes recently a night off, this would be the night to give him that night off.
I want to ask you, Pilsy, if Matt Murray should get the start tonight. We'll save that for the other side. But first, let's get to our SensCentral Citizen today, all the way from just south of Seoul, Korea. We love bringing on everyone, but especially fun to catch up with Sens fans abroad, isn't it, Pils?
Oh, yeah, it's an absolute blast. We've had a lot of people from the UK recently, so to go... we say across the pond, Ross, but this is across a couple ponds here, across a couple of continents, depending on how you're looking at the map here. But it was real awesome to get a chance to talk to Rosie, and she's a well-traveled hockey fan as well, as you'll hear in our interview with her. So definitely fun to see the global reach that the Sens have.
Without further ado, here she is, this week's SensCentral Citizen. It's Rosie Levert. All right, we now welcome this week's SensCentral Citizen, and we've said before we're going across the pond. Are we going across 2 ponds, Pilsy, this time? All the way to Korea. We're bringing on Rosie Levert. Rosie, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm good. It's my nighttime, but I'm happy to be here. So it's just nice to connect with you guys and, jump into this fan base all around the world. It's amazing.
It really is. Now we're waking up. We're about to preview tonight's game against the Buffalo Sabres. What time will that be on for you?
Right. So, fingers crossed that's still happening. So that happens my morning time. I get to listen to the pregame as I prepare to go to work. And then it starts as I start teaching. So it depends on the game and my plan for the day. I will avoid all media and not check anything and then watch the whole game when I get home at night.
Yeah.
Or I'll just keep tabs on the score if I'm just want to know what the score is. But lately I just kind of tune out and don't open anything like my phone at all or any sort of messages. And then I'll just watch the whole thing because I subscribe to, NHL.TV subscription. Yep. So I can watch any game at any time, which is really great for being here.
Yeah, now I imagine that's going to be real tough dealing with spoilers. At least, I guess you've got it figured out now. You've found a way to avoid spoilers. But let's take this all the way back because I'm sure a lot of people are like Sens fan in Korea. What's going on there? So tell us your story. How is a Sens fan now living in Korea?
Right. So, I'm born and raised in Ottawa. I grew up in Ottawa, and I remember when we found out we were getting the team, and that news came down. It's like, oh, is this actually happening? I was in elementary school. Remember that gossip on the playground, right? So from the get-go, me and my family, I have an older sister, older brother, we were just, all into it. My parents are originally from Montreal. So they had, Habs background. My brother is still a Habs fan. That's fine. He doesn't really have a leg to stand on, right? So we just, from the get-go, right, went to games. It was really nice to see, after the first couple of years, that slow start. It was like this, right? And it's kind of been like that for the past, how many years? And I really think it's going to go up again because of the group we have now. Got to go to a whole bunch of games at the Palladium Corral Center. How many name changes it's been now?
Scotiabank, Tire.
Yeah, it was just something we did for fun, did with my friends. My dad took me a whole bunch, and just part of my childhood, to be honest.
That's amazing. And so when you're over abroad, which I think you have been for many years, right? It hasn't just been Korea. You've been overseas for a long time now. Am I right with that?
Yeah, you're correct. So I kind of bounced around. I have a teaching degree, so I can work anywhere, which is kind of nice. I've lived in London, Korea. This is my third time here. So it's easy to come back here as a teacher. Yeah. So Korea, I lived in Central Europe. I was in Prague for a couple of years, and then back to Korea. And then I did Ukraine, only because I was curious of what it's like to live in Eastern Europe. And it's hard. So that was the answer. And I just wanted, figure it out. And unfortunately, I left because it was at the start of the pandemic. So that was something that was not a safe place to be. Ended up in Canada and then back to Korea.
So is the Ottawa Senators fandom something that just makes you feel close to home still? Is that the main reason, do you think? Or because these have been some pretty lean years to be still going through the daily routine of following the team from so far away.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the connection. So it's your podcast is awesome. It's just the voices. It's that it's love for home. I'm a huge loyal listener to 1200. They are amazing.
They are.
I love their shows. Dean and Gord's voice. If I can't watch, I'm happy to listen to the game. Yeah, they do legendary such a great job. Right. So I'm satisfied with that. Love your postcast, but I have to listen to the post game on 1200.
Fair.
and then I'll listen to yours later. Right.
There you go.
Just to catch up. But it's just the comfort as well. So I get a lot of my Ottawa news from 1200, just the sports radio. So then I'm I know what's going on in Ottawa, and I'll, talk to my mom and dad. I'm like, oh, I heard this, this, and this. So it helps me stay, just in touch. Yeah.
I love that. And which players are making you feel most connected? Who are your favorite guys on the squad today?
Now, oh gosh, I love watching this top line. Norris, the way he's, scoring a lot lately. Can't take my eyes off Shabbat because of the way he can skate, right?
Yep.
End to end. I think they have so much potential. I want to see more consistency with the players. Like, I really don't want to see anything change too much.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's music to a lot of fans' ears.
Yeah, we've gone through a lot of change.
Yeah. And I think the loyal fan base, we are loyal because, we want something to happen. And you're a Sens fan for a reason. Like, I'm not the only one. We've moved all over the world because we have grown up and left, right? So we just have faith that it's going to come to fruition. And I really think this group has that. You can tell they get along, they're vibing, they like each other, the way they joke around. And like, I'll listen to 1200 when they are like Dean and Gord are just watching their practice.
Yeah.
You ever listen to those?
For sure.
And I think it's in the box or whatever, they do hour by hour. And it's just listening to the sticks and pucks in the background and their commentary and the way they're on the ice. And I think they mentioned recently they're noticing the guys be a lot more competitive during practice. And I think that's showing on the ice too, right?
Yeah, and I mean, the guys have had to be competitive in practice because they've gone like 3 weeks without games. So they got to ramp things up in practice. And yeah, like you said, the vibes are at an all-time high. Like if you love listening to In the Box when they're talking about practice, I'm sure you must have loved Drake Batherson's mic'd up during practice because you get the sticks, the skates, and all the great hockey lingo there. So what I know you said you don't want to see too much change here, and we're loving the way this team's shaping up as well. But if you could make 1 or 2 changes to improve this team, if you put yourself in Pierre Dorion's position for upcoming trade deadline, what kind of moves are you looking to do, or who are you trying to acquire?
I think maybe add something to the defense just to have more consistency back there because of if injuries and things like that. I like our top line. I don't want to see anything change there. Yep. I don't want to see anyone leave to acquire someone else, right? Like they've just repeating, like they're gelling. I don't want to see that happen. And we've waited so long for it. So add somebody to the back end to make it a bit stronger back there. But I'm not going to say change anything in the net because that has to stay, right? Like, I'm so happy for Murray and the way that he's come back, right? I know you guys are big fans of the goalies and they need
goalie friendly show.
Yeah, I love it. I have questions for you guys too. So
shoot, let's go. Let's hear what you got.
Yeah. But it is specifically about goalies and thinking, because when I was thinking about chatting to you guys, it's like, they've been around. But okay, first, you guys are Sens fans. Yeah. How did you become Sens fans? Because you're not from Ottawa, right?
Oh, we're getting the SensCentral
the reverse SensCentral Citizen. All right, Ross, get into your story.
Yeah, I grew up in Manor Park, Rockville Park, that area, and went to school at Lisgar downtown. So no, I'm born and raised Ottawa. Sting alumni. I got my Ottawa Sting helmet right in the back there. Yep. But Pilsy's a little more. What would you call it? Jumped on board halfway through.
Yeah, I hopped on the bandwagon. I have no shame admitting that. And yes, my origin story is also behind me. I was a Dominic Hasek fan my whole life. I just was absolutely glued to him whenever the Sabres were playing. And then he came to Ottawa, and I was like, well, I hate the Leafs. No chance I'm being a Habs fan. Why not be a Sens fan now? And I know he only stayed for 1 year. And even after he left, I was like, nope. I'm sticking to my Ontario team. I love this team. They're absolutely on fire right now. So it's a good time to be a Sens fan. So that's how I became a Sens fan.
And then they went to the Stanley Cup final the next season. So that continues getting the juices flowing, having a couple playoff runs. Where were you during the 17 playoff run, Rosie?
Here.
Here?
Here. Yeah. Remember it very clearly. And at that time, I was working an evening position. Koreans go to school all the time. So I was teaching from I went to school at 2 and we taught until 9:30 at night. Perfect. Because now I'm working a regular day schedule, but I got to have my free time in the morning.
Yep.
Think about the time difference now.
Of course.
It was gold. I would wake up, I would have my morning, I would watch every game. I was I watch every single thing.
That's impressive.
It was great. And then I worked with a lot of buddies that one Leafs fan, but we're still friends. But he understands like my love for the game.
Good.
And a lot of there's a lot of Americans here.
Yep.
So my buddies, if they don't love hockey, they like something, like they're diehard about football or basketball. So they want to talk, right? And that's the hard thing here is like finding somebody that wants to engage in conversation with me about this topic. Like I really have to, seek it out. So it was nice to have guys that, and then I'll listen to them, go on about the Lakers or whatever. Cause it's, I like all sports, talk about whatever. So I had a good crew around that time and support when they lost.
Oh, so, you need that. Hey, so support, you mentioned the Koreans going to school. You sent me, this is great. I hope the Sens
yes. Growing the game. Love it, Rosie.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have 2 diehard Sens fans in your class or more?
I have 8 students that love me and will do anything I ask them to do.
Perfect.
And they're so clever. So they're kindergarten age and they study about grade 3 level that we would study in Ontario. So
they're our colleagues.
They're beyond they're wonderful. They're so clever. And again, in a second language, right?
Yeah, so, that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah. And I'll talk about stuff and I'll be like, because I have Sens stuff everywhere and they want to know why. And it's like on my phone and like, we want to know. So I would like, well, this is a picture. And they color it. And so it's great.
That's great. So what, I know you said it's hard to find people to talk hockey and North American sports in Korea, but what's kind of the hockey culture overall there? Like, I know it's probably very minimal, but is there like a sense that this game is making its way to Korea and young kids like your students are getting interested and are starting to play hockey? Maybe not even ice hockey, but ball hockey on the street or something like that. Like, is there some sort of inkling that hockey's reached Korea?
Yeah, well, the Olympics a couple years ago here,
yeah,
right?
It must have helped.
Which I was able to go to a game, which was
awesome.
Amazing.
Who did you see?
Czech and Canada in a prelim.
Nice. Yeah. That's sweet.
Great experience. I hadn't been to an Olympic game. The Worlds is another story I'll save because I do want to tell you that. Okay. But it was great because, we got to hang out at Canada House and just, be there. Some of my students were playing hockey in my old school. So it is becoming popular. A lot of my students are into figure skating and Koreans like love being outside. So they like to go skiing. So there is an interest in outdoor sports. As far as hockey goes, I think it may or may not, catch on, but it's not like it's super popular. So there are a lot of foreigners here. So there's like ball hockey leagues. And if you want to go and watch, there's a lot of foreigner bars and stuff and they'll have games on all the time. So
nice. I want to hear this world championship story.
Right.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So I lived in Prague for a couple of years.
What a city.
What a city. Have you been?
I was there for 3 days. It was long enough. I don't know how you lived through 2 years.
It's on my list. I definitely want to go. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely go. It's like, I've traveled all over now and it's like the most beautiful city in the world. There's no comparing it to anywhere else. Right. But it just happened that 2-week tournament that was in the spring, I got a bunch of tickets with my friends because it's so international. My coworker was from Sweden. We went to a prelim Canada-Sweden game. Amazing. And then again, if you remember back, that roster will never be replicated. That roster was like solid from end to end. Like
who are some of the guys? Jog our memory here.
Yeah, Spezza, Heatley, Burns, Taylor Hall, Tyler, Ennis, Tyler Toffoli, like Duchesne. Like I could go on and on and on. Like Eberle, like every single player, every single name was amazing. We went 10-0, right? In that tournament. I don't even know if that's ever happened, right? And that group of guys is not going to happen again, right? Think of like their age, think of, the way things are now. Guys they're choosing not to go to these tournaments, right? So I feel like that was just a blip in the matrix of like Canada gold. Anyways, Europeans love love hockey, right? It is so different than the NHL. I know you guys have, watched both, obviously. I worked with people from all over, and my students were from all over, from Czech, from Slovakia, from Germany, and from America. And I was the only Canadian there, but it was always like, oh, good job, Rosie. Like, I
Nice.
took a lot of the credit.
Hey, I don't blame
for
you.
being Canadian. But that is kind of a story of being abroad, right? Like, I'm representing Canada, and I'm like, yeah, no problem. Like, yeah, they're good. I know.
Yep.
So, it was a great time. So I ended up going to a handful of games. The gold medal game, I got a last minute ticket for.
Ooh.
Yeah, I hadn't planned on it because, as you can imagine, they were quite expensive. And last minute, my dad called me up and he's like, what are you doing? Go to the game. I was like, I can't, it's too expensive. He's like, no, Rosie, this is never going to happen again. And he talked me into it.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, you're right. This is never going to happen.
Once in a lifetime opportunity for sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, thanks, Dad, for that. It was like 7,000 Czech crowns or something. It's the most I've ever spent on
What does that convert to Canadian dollars? Like,
that was like 450 Canadian dollars.
That's still a decent chunk of change. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally worth it. So the gold medal game, this is a funny story. So I end up the last minute ticket because it was just a single seat. I bought it the day of the game. I was surrounded by Russian fans. Yeah.
Mhm.
They are loud. They're very proud. And
Oh, yeah.
I was a little bit intimidated
Yeah,
because in Europe, you don't have as many Canadian fans, right? You have people like me, like one-offs, and then you have like the friends and family of the team, and they would be sitting all together. I found my seat and I was just like chilling out. Obviously, I'm wearing Canada decked out head to toe. And this guy walks by me, and you know when you're looking for your seat and you can't find it, like you're in the wrong spot in anywhere you are in an arena. And I was like, oh, like we give each other a little nod. Like he's wearing a Canada scarf, you know, we're kind of like the same. It's like, oh, okay, well, you know, and he walks all the way by me and then turns around and walks the other way because he was in the wrong spot. Yeah. And the Russian fan that was beside me looked at me and then looked at him and kind of was like, are you together? Because we looked like we're both just Canada.
Coordinated your outfits together. Yeah.
As every Canadian would be at that game. Right. And I was like, no, but hold on. And I chased the guy down. I was like, hey, buddy, are you alone? He's like, yeah. I was like, do you want to sit with me? He's like, yep. So he came, the Russian fan and him swapped seats.
Nice.
And like, I just like enjoyed the game with this guy and like high five. I don't remember the score. To be honest, like we ran up the board that gold medal game to the point where like we felt bad cheering for goals.
Oh no.
So, you know, like it was just, they dominated the whole tournament. So I just remember that as like a beautiful end to that tournament. I've never even kept in contact with that random person, but we both had an amazing time watching the game. So yeah, that's one of my good memories from hockey abroad.
That's awesome. And one of the reasons why they had such a great team was Sidney Crosby was going for his triple gold club, wasn't he? Because he had already won the Olympics and World Juniors, and then he was always in the Stanley Cup playoffs, so he never had a chance to get overseas. So he went, then Nathan McKinnon goes, and then all those guys you mentioned as well, and Jason Spezza leading that team in scoring just a year after leaving the Ottawa Senators, Pilsy. But hey, that actually brings me to a great last question, because former Ottawa Senator, we skipped over one of the favorite questions I like to ask. And I know that you were really young when the team got to town and then was starting up and getting better. What was the first or second player that you fell in love with on the team?
Well, first was Alfredson. Everybody's going to kind of say that. But my favorite player was Redden. For sure. Oh, nice. In that early age. Yeah. Excuse me. They like offensive defenseman. I think in his prime, he was so good and he was reliable for so long, you know, in those early days and then some. This is just memory for you. Do you guys remember the Sens carnivals that They did.
No.
It might have been because I was in high school. It was like 98, 99,
Okay.
like a bit, early. So they would open up the Corral Center and they would just, you can buy a ticket for fans. You could go and meet the players, promotions, community, getting in touch with everyone.
Cool.
So I had a ticket just to, sorry.
Oh, I said cool.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I had a ticket with one of my buddies just to see Redden. That was my main goal, was to meet him and get his signature. So the night before, I ended up going to the boards. I played competitive ringette. I wasn't playing hockey. So, I was on the ice a couple times a week. And I went into the boards and just like smashed my back, like in like a really bad way. Ooh. That like every single like motion was bad, to the point where my mom was like, well, you're not going because you're injured. And I was like, no, I'm going because I'm going to go meet Wade Redden.
There you go.
That's what I'm going to do. And I ended up winning that fight somehow. Like, I think my dad went to bat for me because he drove me there.
There you go.
I guess he knew how important it was to me. But I have this photo somewhere. It's like, I'm grinning from ear to ear with Wade Redden. And I just remember the whole rest of my body was in pain. Because I really should have stayed home. But yeah, that one sticks out too. I was like 14 years old.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
Yeah, you're not missing that. And yeah, I think you do make a good point. I think people kind of have a bad impression of Redden because the famous story is the Sens had Redden and Chara and they had to make a choice. And well, Chara is still playing today. I mean, I don't think that argument is very difficult there, but Redden was a stud for the Sens, that's for sure. Now, final question for me, Rosie, and thanks so much for joining us late night over in Korea. I see you got the heritage hat, the Senegoth flag. If you had to get some new 2D gear, if you had to get a new jersey, I don't know if you have one already, but which jersey would you get and who's on the back?
Okay, I have, so this logo here, I have a jersey of that. It's not my favorite logo.
Yeah.
I like the jerseys from this year, like the throwback jersey, the black, like classic.
Yeah. So clean.
Black. It looks sharp, right? They look great on the ice.
Oh yeah.
The name on the back, I'd have to go current because I know there's no point in going back. I'd put Kachuk on the back.
Yeah. Nice. Now that he's got the C, it's hard to resist that. Yeah.
I mean, he's like heart and soul of that team. He's great on the ice. I think he's like, his energy is just contagious out there. So I think he's earned that C.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned Wade Redden, a guy who spent 11 seasons in Ottawa. And I think a lot of Sens fans are going to resonate with what you said about the changeover has to be slowed down right now. It's never going to be done. It's professional sports, but slow it down, keep some continuous players to really connect with as whether you're a casual hardcore fan like you are. And Rosie, we really appreciate you jumping on with us all the way from just south of Seoul, Korea. Go follow her, give her a follow on Instagram, because usually we give out the Twitters here. Rosie.Levert on Instagram there. Yeah. And we appreciate you coming on, man. This has been a lot of fun for us.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys.
Stick taps to Rosie for joining us. That was a really fun chat with her. And again, go shoot her a follow on Instagram. And if you're a Sens fan in Korea, even more reason to, because she says she's surrounded by Leafs fans. So go save her with a great conversation about the glory days and the days to come. They start tonight. Although Pilsy, the Sens are 7-3-1 in their last 11 games. So rolling in with a bit of confidence here after their games in Alberta. What's your key to victory against the Buffalo Sabres?
Well, Ross, before we get to our key to victory and teeing up this game, we got to tell you about our friends at betonline.ag. And Ross, you gave out a Levy lock yesterday. I'd like to take a little credit for it. I gave you the hint, but it did hit. The St. Louis Blues did win on Chris Pronger's retirement night. So you got to love that. That's a good Levy lock. Hopefully you guys cashed in. And if you did cash in, the best place to do it is at betonline.ag. It's your online sportsbook experts. It's the trusted partner of Locked On Podcast Network. And since you guys are a loyal listener of the Locked On Senators podcast, we're hooking you guys up with a welcome bonus. So go to betonline.ag today, sign up for a free account, and use our promo code Locked On. What that's going to do for you is you're going to get a 50% welcome bonus. So let's say you put $100 in, bingo, bango, bongo, you're going to get yourself $50 in free play money. Now, NFL playoffs, the next round is here. The Ottawa Senators are back. There's basketball going on. There's so many ways you can get off the sidelines and into the action. So guys, head to betonline.ag, use our promo code LOCKEDON to get a 50% welcome bonus and get off the sidelines and get into the action. It's betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts.
All right, Pilsy. So now your keys to victory tonight.
All right, so looking at the Sabres lineup here, Ross, we mentioned it. There's a lot of spots that we can be taken advantage of, but the one that I'm really circling here is pull up the lines real quick here, Ross, for the Buffalo Sabres, for those watching on YouTube.
Yep. Give me a second.
Oh, no worries.
Boom.
There it is. Look at the center depth here. Tage Thompson, very young, inexperienced NHL player. Dylan Cousins, once again. Peyton Krebs, rookie. And then Cody Eakin is actually a veteran. So really down the middle, you're going up against very inexperienced centermen. And it shows. Like looking at the stats here, Ross, the Buffalo Sabres, for their face-offs, almost all these guys, like Dylan Cousins, 41.9. Tage Thompson, 40.3 in the face-off dot. The only guy who's doing any good at a full basis that's had over 100 face-offs here is Cody Eakin, and he's the fourth line center. So I really want this Senators team to take advantage of that and dominate in the face-off circle, because if they can dominate in the face-off circle, they're going to start with the puck, and these Sabres are going to be chasing all game long. So that's my key to victory, is don't let these kind of inexperienced centermen get the best of you. You need to prove that you've got the strength in the faceoff dot and win those battles. And just having the puck, especially in the O-zone, winning those draws often leads to a good chance and even goals. So that's what I want to focus on tonight.
So could this be a night that Tim Stützle gains some confidence in the dot?
Exactly. That's a perfect time for Tim Stützle, because, look, he'd be going up against Dylan Cousins. And like I just said, 41.9% in the faceoff dot for Cousins. So that's definitely someone that Timmy can look to and say, hey, I can beat this guy.
Yeah, because Tim Stützle's face-off percentage, just pulling it up right now, it's
probably similar or even worse, actually.
Pretty far down, 31% right now.
Yeah, so
31%.
Let's use this to bump those numbers up a bit there, Timmy.
I would really like to see that tonight for Tim Stützle. And again, he just turned 20 years old. We're not harping on him because he's not snapping him back like Shane Pinto at Nodak, but it would be nice to see him get a little confidence. And we know how good he is with the puck, so it's only going to help him if he gets it off of the draw a little bit more often. Talk about Captain Obvious there from me. So Tim Stützle for that reason, and also, getting his feet under him in that last game. He got a late assist on the Josh Norris goal, secondary assist at that. I want to see him take another step forward on home ice, where we know he's produced more on the road than at home. So I think it'd be nice for him here to get on the board. He's my locked on player. I'll save my key to victory for the end, but let's get to our lookout player. And I got my eye on Rasmus Dahlin, because I want to see, they always say defensemen take longer to develop. He was the first overall pick. He's been in some tough situations, but at some point here, at 22 years old, you got to turn the corner to that next step. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say he signed a bridge deal, didn't he, out of his entry level?
Yeah, I think 3 years, $6 million per.
Okay, so he's not a guy who's locked up like Svechnikov and like Brady Tkachuk right behind him in that draft. So what do you do if you're Rasmus Dahlin? You can't look at comparables, because again, the position change is different. And from talking to Locked On Sabres, like, there are progressions in his game, but how patient are they going to be? You hope that they are, because he is a super talented kid. I'm going to be looking out for Dahlin tonight.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I think people also need to understand that, man, there's been a lot of pressure and responsibility put on this kid. Like, to be the number one defenseman of a Buffalo Sabres D-corps, that's no easy task. So I think it's going to take some time, and they need to surround him with some talent, which they're starting to do here. But yeah, he's a guy, anytime you get to go up against the first overall draft pick, you got to be looking out for him.
Yeah, he's putting up points. Like, he's going the wrong way. The first couple seasons, he got 44 points as an 18-year-old rookie. Like, that in itself, super impressive. Then 40, then 23, and now he's sitting at 23 again, but only in 38 games. So there's plenty of room for him, at least offensively. But again, this is a guy who's minus 49 total in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, a whole lot of minuses there, Ross. That's tough.
Exactly. All right, who's your lookout player tonight?
All right, well, a bunch of minuses, but really a lot of dollar signs for this guy, and that's Jeff Skinner. I mean,
Yeah.
this guy's making $9 million, and his last couple seasons in Buffalo have been very brutal, but he's picking things up here. Like, I'm not saying up to a $9 million pace, but he does lead the team with 14 goals. And for Jeff Skinner, that's not bad. And he's got 9 assists, so 23 points in 36 games. That's decent. And in his last couple games here, Ross, I'm just pulling up his game logs here.
Yeah, I've got it. 5 goals in his last 6 games.
Yeah, exactly. So he's been impressive. He's been hot here. So he's easily the most talented player on that forward group there. So don't let him get hot, because he's like, maybe not anymore, but remember back in his Hurricane days, Ross, like this guy was putting up 30 goals consistently, and he was one of the best skaters in the entire league. And I think actually, if I remember, CBC did a story on him, and he was a figure skater as a kid. Like,
Yeah, he quit AAA hockey. He's my age group. So you
Yeah.
always hear about him. It was him and Tyler Sagan, both on
Yep.
the Toronto Nationals, Toronto Marlboros, whatever
Marlboros,
that
I think,
GTA
yeah.
is. And yeah, he quit for a couple of years, and everyone's like, whoa, this guy's going to be a star in the NHL. What's he doing? And you look, he's got that 10-2 where the skates are out, and he's got this interesting skating stride when he's in the offensive zone to protect the puck. So I think it did him well. And yeah, you're right. He scored 30 goals as an 18-year-old in the league, and he's got 3 30-goal seasons and then scored 40
Sabres.
in his first year. He doesn't even have 40 total in his next 3 years
Yeah.
with Buffalo. He's sitting at about 35 for that.
Yeah, he spent a bunch of time on the fourth line last season, Ross, and yeah, it's been tough. But it's also crazy too, and I thought you might get a kick out of this, but a $9 million player, a 40-goal scorer, and he's wearing 53 for the Sabres. Like, doesn't that seem like a training camp number? Like,
Yeah, a little bit.
that seems like a weird number for him. I just thought that was funny. But yeah, Jeff Skinner, if you're looking at guys who with time and space on the power play you need to be worried about, he's definitely the guy.
He is definitely the guy. Now, you know what's been great here not against, did they score first against Edmonton?
Yep, Josh Norris got it on the power play.
Right. I've been enjoying that now, 2 games in a row scoring
Yeah,
first.
it's nice.
So let's keep that up, because Buffalo has been scored on first 21 times, and they have 3 wins in those games. So you put that team on their heels. They don't have the veteran leadership, I don't think, to get them through that. And I think that things could go from bad to worse to ugly if they're not able to score first and really get the Sens questioning themselves as they return home. And again, fans aren't going to be in the building, which is really tough for the Senators. They feed off of that presence. The last home game was a 4-0 shutout. Brady Tkachuk's first hat trick in NHL history. Anton Forsberg's first career shutout. Those days are behind you, but it leads me to my question to you. Matt Murray or Anton Forsberg, who starts in goal tonight?
Gotta go with Murray. I mean, no question in my mind, because this guy has worked real hard to get to where he's at. And yes, I know it's only been 2 games, but they were very good games by Matt Murray. And we've seen things from him that we weren't seeing before. Like one thing, and I forget if I touched on this or not, but that crazy save, the desperation save he had on McDavid, where he has to dive back and he just gets a pad on it. Last year's Matt Murray gives up on that play. And McDavid scores that, and then he looks around and is pissed off, right? But this year's Matt Murray, he's battling, and he's getting knocked over in the net. Last year's Matt Murray, he gets knocked over. He's skating to the dressing room, right? Like, it just seems like he's got a different fire under him now. And I feel like he deserves to go up against, again, I'm not trying to downplay the Sabres here, but an easier team where he can really kind of say, all right, I can add to my win totals here, hopefully pad my stats a little bit here because he needs it. And with Forsberg, like, I think you can let him wait a bit while Murray's this hot. Like, don't let Murray lose this groove, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I would definitely 100% get Matt Murray in for this game.
Yeah, I wish I could argue with you, but there's just no rational reason. For me, it's Matt Murray, no question. You're hoping to rebuild this guy into a starter.
Exactly. Yep.
A starter with 2 days off before a home game against Buffalo. You start him 10 out of 10 times. And what's next? Ottawa, I know they're going on that 3-game road trip, but does that start on Thursday? It does. Starts Thursday in Pittsburgh, which, again, that's going to be a high leverage situation. Matt Murray going back to Pittsburgh.
Yep.
for the first time because it was the All-Canadian division last year. I don't
True.
know.
Yeah,
He
true.
may have played Pittsburgh already earlier this season, but that's in Ottawa. Of course, he's got memories playing in Pittsburgh. So
No, I think Gustafson played that game because we did the storyline like, oh, they traded Gus away, and I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly.
Look how quick I pulled that up. Philip Gustafson did play that game. So this will be Matt Murray's first game. Hopefully, you got to think he's in that game, no question, against his former team. But get him rolling tonight. He's 2-0. If you win, you're in. DJ Smith likes saying the best players play. Yep. Do I always believe him? No, but this is a perfect situation to get him in there. And when we find out, we'll let you know on Twitter at SensCentral. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the show. We appreciate it a whole lot. If you missed any recent episodes, you can go find them wherever you download your audio podcast or on YouTube, where we had Paul Bissonnette on yesterday, Carson Latimer last week. Got to hit him with the SensCentral bump, Pillsy. Carson Latimer, 3 assists last night in his return from COVID.
I'll pretend to be shocked, Ross. Oh my God. A SensCentral bump after coming on the show. We told him that was going to happen, and 3 apples. Like, this kid, he was meant to be a Prince Albert Raider. Like, he is just absolutely lighting it up since he's got there. So, and I think he's having a blast there too. As you could tell from our conversation, it seemed like he really enjoyed the new team that he's on and the new role he's got. 14
points now in 11 games.
Yep.
He was in the OHL. He'd be putting up almost 100 points, but we'll leave it at that for today. Again, hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Join us in the postcast after the Buffalo Sabres Ottawa Senators game tonight. That'll be around 9:30 Eastern. But again, just think when the final buzzer goes, give us 15 minutes to lock in, and then we'll be locked on our YouTube stream.
But speaking of locked on, Ross, we got to do our locked on players. So we skipped over that. So
I did mine.
Oh, okay. I didn't get to mine then. My locked on player, Alex Formenton. I mean, back-to-back games with 2 points, and now he's fully, like, he's cemented on that second line.
Fourth line, though. Do you think DJ Smith goes with the line combos that ended last game?
Yeah, true. Yeah. But if, I don't know, that's going to be interesting. Yeah. So, because with no practice today, we'll see. But I think he's bringing Formenton back up there with Stützle if that's the play. So I think Formenton, with all that speed and the confidence he's on, this is a good game for him to get even more points going. So he's my guy.
And your lookout player, did you do one of those?
Skinner was mine. Yep.
Yes, Skinner. And I had Dahlin, and then I had Stützle, and you've got Formenton. Tell us in the post. Go ahead.
Just quickly, one more thing to wrap up. Belleville played last afternoon. 2-1 loss to the Syracuse Crunch.
With 20 seconds left, they got the game winner.
Is devastating, man. That team's last in the division, and they can't scrape a win there. So I just wanted to quickly mention that because that was a tough one to lose.
And if you're wondering how old Uncle Deli's doing in the minors, he got his 7th assist. He's up to 11 points now in 8 games. All right. Anything else, Billsy, before we go?
That's it. Take it away, Ross.
We'll see you in the postcast after tonight's game. Thanks for listening. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.